Today we're going to be talking about the 6 major forms of emotional abuse of children, and I think it's important that we talk about it because it really does help explain a lot of why we ended up as adults. So the first form of emotional abuse that we need to consider is rejection. This is when a parent refuses love to a child, when they are withholding love, when they are refusing to touch the child appropriately, combing their hair, touching their face, hugging them, and holding their hands. So this sense of rejection, so there's a rejection of love. So parents are withholding love and nurturing an emotional connection from their child. Parents who use excessive punishment and lock their children out of the house for not doing something. Parents who use that form of discipline to punish their child, even humiliate their child. You know, children who are just teenagers or very young children for doing something that the parents didn't like and using this type of a rejection tool to emotionally abuse their child. Invalidation is the second form of emotional abuse. It's just so sad. This is when parents are ignoring the emotional needs of a child. And it's very sad because, you know, there are parents out there who know that their children need to be heard, know that their children are in pain, know that their children are emotionally bleeding, and they just ignore those needs. So there's an invalidation of the schoolwork, invalidation of any accomplishments, there's an invalidation of emotional needs, invalidation of medical needs, of dental needs. Siblings are beating them up, or they have a nosebleed and they have night terrors and they're afraid, and there's just a complete invalidation and a complete invalidation of this child's needs. The third form of emotional abuse is terrorizing. There are parents out there who actually enjoy terrorizing their children. So these parents terrorize their children as a way to manipulate and control them and to undermine their sense of self and undermine their sense of confidence in themselves. So parents who threaten to leave the children if they don't stop yelling, parents who threaten to humiliate them in front of their friends, parents who actually humiliate children in front of other family members, parents who go out of their way to let other family members know about the child's personal struggles. This is all a form of terrorizing a child, which is a form of emotional abuse. Another form of emotional abuse is isolating a child. This is when parents think that it's okay to leave their children alone for long periods of time. I've had clients of mine tell me that their parents used to leave them for weekends, or they were left home alone, until 10 o'clock at night. Children who were forced to stay outside on the porch waiting for mommy or daddy to come home. So this sense of isolation is tied to this idea that the parents aren't really understanding the importance of stability, healthy framework, boundaries, love, food, and attention inside a family dynamic, and children are basically left to fend for themselves. Another way that this shows up is when parents don't let children have other friends, when parents keep children away from other people, when they are isolating them from peers, when they are making it very difficult for children to have children of their own age to play with and to have conversations with. It's a sense of isolating the children, both from themselves, leaving them alone for long periods of time, and not allowing them to have healthy friendships outside the home and isolating them from other people. Another form of emotional abuse is corruption. When parents encourage their children to go beat up a kid, when parents encourage their child to go steal, when parents encourage their children to go drinking, when parents actually drink with their children and do drugs in front of their children, when the parents are corrupt and they don't understand that it's abusive to bring your children along doing these terrible things. It's abusive to expose your children to illegal criminal acts and expect your children to go along. Parents who encourage their children to hurt animals, parents who encourage their children to cheat on tests. This is all a form of emotional abuse that falls under the category of corruption. Another form of emotional abuse is exploitation. Parents who expect the 7-year-old to watch the 1-year-old, or parents who expect the 8-year-old to do the laundry, or parents who expect the 5-year-old to take care of the 2-year-old, right? So this is exploitation of the innocence of a child, that punishment is not age appropriate, and the chores that are given down to the child are not age appropriate. So this exploitation of innocence falls under the category of exploitation. So the short-term effects for a child can be confusion, self-doubt, anxiousness, irritability, and a change in their mood. And the long-term effects of emotional abuse could be severe anxiety, chronic fatigue syndrome, panic attacks, migraine headaches, irritable bowel syndrome, eating disorders, suicidal ideation, and even suicide. Living in a home where there is chronic emotional abuse, and I love this saying, I forgot the name of the professor who used this term, but she said it was like marinating in trauma. There was no escape, right? So children who come from these homes grow up into adults who have all sorts of issues like eating disorders, codependency, adults who grew up feeling undermined on an emotional and psychological level, lack a sense of self. And so those of us who grew up under the umbrella of psychological abuse, very oftentimes we develop codependency and end up in psychologically and emotionally abusive relationships. So remember this when you're dealing with people, that emotionally abusive people put their needs above everyone else's needs. They will be minimizing, they'll be gaslighting, they'll be withholding, there'll be embarrassment, there'll be name calling, there'll be passive aggressive comments, there'll be little innuendos, little insults. They'll say that, oh, I was just joking, you're just too sensitive. But this is all designed to undermine how you feel about the self. It happens in so many different ways. It starts off slowly and then it begins to escalate. And that's why I think it's really important. The more we know, the better we are prepared when we are out in relationships, because when these little insults start to happen, we have to nip them in the bud. The person that we're dealing with is testing their water. They want to know how much you're going to allow them to put up with. So the first time someone puts you down, the first time someone calls you a name, the first time someone insults you in front of other people, the first time someone patronizes you, oh, isn't she so cute? She's trying so hard to remember that. Or she thinks she's so smart. Isn't that so cute? The first time is going to be a time where we're going to have to speak up for ourselves. When you notice someone putting down your achievements, when you notice someone minimizing you, when you notice someone over-talking you, when you notice someone mock your intelligence or mock the way you raise your kids or mock your kids. The first time you notice someone is confrontational for no reason, like it's really being blown out of proportion. The first time someone accuses you, or judges you or accuses you of cheating or accuses you of flirting and it's unjustified, is the first time that you've got to set a boundary with this person. So emotional abuse is psychological abuse. It affects the way you see yourself. So if you're an adult and you experience rejection, isolation, feeling terrorized, isolation, corruption, and exploitation, then as an adult, you understanding that about your childhood, you understand that you might be a prime target for an abusive person today. That is really good information, because the more you understand about your childhood and the more you understand about empowering the self and healing from codependency and narcissistic abuse, the better your chances are at changing these patterns, falling in love with the self, being able to set boundaries, and setting yourself free from these types of narcissistic abusive cycles. If you grew up in an emotionally abusive home, an emotionally neglectful home, you have to know that is not your fault. You have to know that what you're suffering with today, it's not you, it's just your programming. And you have to know that you are always enough. You have to know that it's possible to heal from this type of abuse and take your life back. And I'm hoping that day starts today. My name is Lisa A. Romano. I am the Breakthrough Life Coach and the creator of the 12-Week Breakthrough Coaching Program, and I moderate it myself, which helps people heal from emotional abuse and codependency and narcissistic abuse. And if you'd like to learn more about that, you can go to my website at www.lisaromano.com. If you're interested in reading one of my books, you can find out more information there too. You are enough, dear one, bowing to the love and the life that is absolutely in you. Bye for now.